What if I told you that most people fail to regrow their hair not because androgenetic alopecia is untreatable, but because they misunderstand hair loss from the very beginning? Welcome to what most people get wrong about androgenetic alopecia. In this video, we're going to dismantle some of the most common and most damaging beliefs people carry about hair loss. Many people believe androgenetic alopecia is dead. Once your hair starts thinning, once your hairline recedes, once doctors say it's genetic, that's it. Just accept it. Manage expectations, maybe slow it down, but never reverse it. But in the human body, it doesn't work in absolutes. Hair loss is not a single switch that flips on or off. It's a biological process shaped by years, sometimes decades of inflammation, hormonal signaling, blood flow changes, nutrient delivery, stress, and scalp health. So when people try something for a few weeks and don't see regrowth, they think maybe my understanding is incomplete. They think something is wrong with me. That's where frustration starts. That's where people give up. And that's where the myth of no cure gets reinforced. In this video, you'll learn why shedding is not failure, but part of follicle cycling. Why androgenetic alopecia is not just about DHT, but about the scalp environment DHT acts on, and why so many people quit right before their follicles begin responding correctly. If you're dealing with hair thinning, pattern baldness, or were told that your hair loss is permanent, stay with me until the end of this video. And if you value science-based explanations without hype, fear tactics, or false promises, make sure to subscribe. Because what you're about to learn may completely change how you understand hair loss and what's actually possible for your scalp. The biggest misconception, androgenetic alopecia is a DHT problem. The most dangerous misconception about androgenetic alopecia is the belief that DHT alone is the cause. This idea is appealing because it simplifies the problem. Block DHT, save the hair, end of story. But human biology doesn't work in isolation. The hair follicles are no exception. DHT is not a toxin. It's a hormone derived from testosterone that plays an important role in tissue signaling, repair, and development. If DHT alone caused hair loss, then every follicle exposed to DHT would miniaturize, but they don't. The sides and the back of the scalp are exposed to the same DHT, yet those follicles remain strong. So what's the difference? It's not the hair strand. It's not even the follicle as a whole. The real story begins deeper at the level of the hair bulb and the dermal papilla. The dermal papilla is the command center of the hair follicle. It is a cluster of highly specialized cells at the base of the follicle that controls hair growth, thickness, cycle length, and regeneration. Every signal that tells hair to grow, slow down, miniaturize, or stop altogether passes through the dermal papilla. And the hair bulb, the structure surrounding it, is where rapidly dividing cells rely on oxygen, nutrients, and growth signals to build the hair shaft itself. In androgenetic alopecia, the problem isn't the follicle disappears. The problem is that the dermal papilla becomes biologically compromised. Blood flow to the papilla decreases, inflammatory molecules accumulate, fibrotic tissue slowly tightens around the follicle. Mitochondria inside the follicle cells produce less energy. And that's where Miracle Lock's duo plays a major role. The essence consists of 11 targeted peptides for hair growth and the specialized herbal oil with 23 organic herbs that help target and eliminate DHT. In that we can state DHT becomes a stress amplifier, not the original cause. DHT interacts with androgen and receptors in the dermal papilla, altering gene expression related to growth factors like IGF-1 and VEGF. As those growth signals decline, the hair bulb receives the clear message: conserve energy, shrink output, and shorten the growth phase. This is how miniaturization begins. Each hair cycle produces a thinner strand, a shorter energy phase, and a longer resting phase, not because the follicle is dead, but because its control center is under chronic stress. This is why treating androgenetic alopecia at the surface level alone often fails. You can block DHT, but if the dermal papilla remains inflamed, oxygen-starved, and nutritionally deprived, the growth signal never fully returns. Think of it like a factory with damaged management. Removing one external stressor doesn't restore production if leadership, power supply, and communication systems are still failing. And here's the most important part. Miniaturization is not follicle death. A miniaturized follicle is alive but operating in survival mode. The dermal papilla hasn't shut down, it has gone quiet. That distinction matters because it means reversal is biologically possible, but only if the environment around the hair bulb and the dermal papilla changes first. That's why long-term regrowth strategies focus less on attacking hormones and more on restoring circulation, reducing inflammation, improving cellular energy, and supplying consistent micronutrient support directly to the follicle system. When the dermal papilla feels safe again, growth signals reemerge naturally, not explosively, not overnight, but steadily, cycle by cycle, strand by strand. Hair growth isn't about forcing follicles to grow. It's about giving the command center permission to turn back on. Insulin resistance and why follicles slowly starve. One of the most overlooked drivers of progressive hair loss has nothing to do with the scalp itself. It's insulin resistance. Most people associate insulin resistance with diabetes or weight gain, not thinning hair. But hair follicles are among the most metabolically demanding structures in the body. They divide rapidly, regenerate constantly, and rely on a steady supply of glucose, oxygen, amino acids, and micronutrients. And all of that delivery depends on insulin signaling and microcirculation working properly. When insulin levels remain chronically elevated from frequent eating, blood sugar spikes, stress, or poor sleep, cells throughout the body begin to resist insulin's signal. Glucose stays trapped in the bloodstream instead of efficiently entering cells. At the same time, insulin resistance damages the inner lining of blood vessels, a condition called endothelial dysfunction. This reduces nitric oxide production, the molecule responsible for vasodilation. In simple terms, blood vessels lose their ability to fully open. Now imagine what that means for the scalp. The dermal papilla sits at the very end of tiny capillaries. It is one of the first tissues to experience reduced oxygen and nutrient delivery. This creates a state of chronic low-grade follicular starvation, not enough to kill the follicle, but enough to force it into conservation mode. Hair growth slows, anagen shortens, miniaturization accelerates. This is why many people with androgenetic alopecia also show signs of insulin resistance, even if their blood sugar labs still look normal. Because long before diabetes appears, hair follicles feel the impact. The dermal papilla senses reduced energy availability and adjusts gene expression accordingly. Growth signals downregulate, survival's pathways upregulate, and this is where topical support begins to matter more than people realize. Because while systemic insulin sensitivity must be addressed internally, the follicle environment itself still can be supported locally. This is where formulations designed to interact with follicle signaling pathways, particularly at the dermal papilla and the hair bulb, quietly play a role. When applied consistently, targeted actives can influence local gene expression, support mitochondrial and energy production, and improve the biochemical environment around compromised follicles. Not as a quick fix, but as a part of a longer biological conversation. If you think hair loss is just about hormones, wait until you see what inflammation and fibrosis are doing beneath your scalp. Inflammation equals fibrosis equals follicle suffocation. Hair loss rarely happens suddenly. It happens quietly through chronic inflammation. Low-grade persistent inflammation changes tissue behavior over time, and in the scalp it leads to one of the most destructive processes in androgenetic alopecia called fibrosis. Fibrosis is the gradual replacement of healthy elastic tissue with stiff collagen-dense scar-like tissue. It doesn't feel dramatic, but biologically it's devastating. As inflammatory cytokines like TNF-alpha and IL-6 remain elevated, fibroblasts in the scalp begin depositing excess collagen around the follicles. This creates a tightening effect around the hair bulb and the dermal papilla. Blood flow becomes restricted, oxygen diffusion drops, waste removal slows down. And follicle isn't dying, it's being compressed. This mechanical stress further alters gene expression inside the dermal papilla. Growth factors decline, WNT beta-catenin signaling weakens, TGF beta signaling increases, and known inhibitor of hair growth. This is why scalp tension, itching, soreness, or sensitivity often precede visible thinning. The tissue environment is changing before the hair does, and once fibrosis sets in, simple stimulating growth is no longer enough. The environment must soften inflammation, must calm down cellular signaling, and must rebalance. This is why long-term topical strategies are not about coating the hair, they're about influencing the biology underneath it. Certain plant-derived compounds, lipids, and bioactive molecules have been shown to modulate inflammatory pathways and improve extracellular matrix remodeling. When used consistently, they can help support a healthier scalp environment, one where the dermal papilla is no longer under constant inflammatory attack. This is how topical support becomes meaningful and not cosmetic. But if you think reduced blood flow is just a theory, the next section explains why hair follicles literally suffocate over time. Blood flow, oxygen, and the slow return of growth signals. Hair follicles do not grow in isolation. They grow in response to circulation. Every strand of hair is a metabolic output of blood flow, oxygen delivery, and nutrient exchange. When scalp circulation declines, whether from insulin resistance, inflammation, fibrosis, or chronic stress, the dermal papilla receives weaker growth signals. VEGF production drops, capillary density decreases, and mitochondrial output slows. The follicle adapts by shrinking its workload, thinner hair, shorter cycles, longer resting phases. This is not random, it's intelligent biological conservation. Now here's the part most people miss. Improving blood flow is not about aggression. It's about signaling. Gentle, consistent stimulation, biochemical and mechanical, teaches the scalp that resources are available again. Over time, this allows the dermal papilla to re-express growth-promoting genes, but instantly, not progressively. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. And this is where a well-balanced topical protocol quietly supports internal work. By delivering bioactive compounds directly to the follicle environment, supporting mitochondrial activity, inflammation, and encouraging healthier signaling at the hair bulb. When applied consistently, this creates conditions where internal improvements, better insulin sensitivity, lower stress, improved sleep can actually translate into visible hair changes. Hair regrowth is not one intervention, it's alignment. Internal biology and external signaling work together. In this final section, I'll explain why most people quit right before follicles start responding and how to know if you're actually on the right path. Why most people quit right before hair responds. Here's the uncomfortable truth about hair regrowth. Most people quit at the exact moment the biology is starting to shift. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing is visible yet. Hair follicles don't respond like skin or nails. They respond on biological time. When you correct insulin signaling, reduce inflammation, improve blood flow, and support the dermal papilla, the follicle does three things in order. First, it stabilizes. Shedding slows, miniaturization pauses. Second, it repairs internally. Mitochondria recovers, gene expression shifts, growth signals increase. And third, months later, does visible hair thickness begin to change. This is why timelines matter. In the first 30 to 60 days, the scalp environment just improves. Less itching, less inflammation, and better circulation. But in 90 to 120 days, follicles that were dormant but not dead may re-enter anagen, and in 6 to 12 months, consistency compounds into visible density. Most people quit at day 45, right after inflammation drops, right before signaling improves, right before follicles respond. They assume nothing is working when in reality, the foundation was just set. Hair regrowth isn't about forcing results. It's about creating conditions and staying long enough for biology to answer. That's why topical support only works when it's consistent, targeted, and patient. And why products designed to support gene expression, dermal papilla, health, and the hair bulb matter most over time and not overnight. Hair doesn't reward urgency, it rewards alignment. If you stop chasing cures and start supporting biology, hair becomes understandable and manageable. It is just like the compounding effect when you are investing. You start investing today, but if you stop investing in 45 days and quit, you are not going to get those compounding benefits that you would if you had continued investing for the next 10 years. So if this video has helped you and this video gave you the information that you needed today to start your hair growth journey, and now is the time to start, and now is the time to take your decision. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below what you think about this information.